So, the marvelous genre known as the Western. It can predominantly be summed up just by mentioning a few of its stereotypical elements. The story usually begins with the appearance of a mysterious wanderer. Typically, this person is a loner, and very skillful if and when he finds himself in a situation where the resort to violence is inevitable. This mysterious person always seems to be a stranger to the surrounding countryside the story takes place at. The reason for this being that the stranger had to flee from somewhere, is running from someone, usually relating or connected to something from their past. In general, the wanderer comes across a seemingly quiet, peaceful, and ordinary settlement where he thinks he can rest for a while and recover some strength before continuing on with his journey. What the stranger doesn't suspect, however, is that his mere presence alone will usually stir up more trouble than he bargained for, which will eventually lead to some sort of chaos and or uprising within the community. Now, what if I told you that in this film, the mysterious wanderer is an African football player from the Ivory Coast who is passing through the Hungarian prairie, or better known as the Puszta, a sort of Wild West slash American Midwest of Eastern Europe, and that he comes across a farm governed by an odd group of Romanian bandits and cowboys who just might also happen to be slave owners. And that all of this might either be taking place in the present, the future, in a kind of strange alternate universe, or, as the title might suggest, as a mirage, simply as an illusion in someone's head. Now, if all of that sounds quite vague to you and even slightly confusing, perfect, because that's exactly what this movie is. I especially enjoy the part in the beginning of the film when he walks into a bar and you can hear a transmission on the radio, and it says that the current time is noon. Fucking noon. Not even the movie knows when it's taking place. This film basically takes all of those elements of your typical Western I mentioned and turns them into tropes, metaphors if you will. And the director makes this pretty evident from the get-go, by having this relatively short film, with a very simple and straightforward story, be separated into chapters. Kind of unjustifiably, at the end of every chapter, the screen fades to black, and we get an illustration shown to us, a black and white illustration of either something that has something directly to do with the story, like a football, or something more vague, like an animal. For instance, there's a chicken and even a jackal. I'm still not sure what the director was trying to communicate with these symbols, but if he was by any chance leaning towards more religious territory, especially Christianity, then animals like the rooster can be considered a symbol for both vigilance and betrayal, and the jackal as one for desolation, loneliness, and abandonment, with reference being made in the Bible to its habit of living in the ruins of former cities and other areas abandoned by humans. All of this would be very much in line with the film's themes, which takes place in a world where everyone has to be constantly vigilant because there's always a chance of someone stabbing you in the back, and where your home, your land, your freedom, and ultimately your life can be overrun by people who outnumber and outgun you. This kind of fragmentation is also present during some scenes, especially towards the end of the film, where there's a scene in which an otherwise awesome gunfight takes place, but the screen, I think a couple of times, fades to black and then immediately cuts back, but cuts back to the exact same characters in the exact same moment in time. It's a nice fluctuation because it's disruptive and slightly confusing, but what it is that exactly is going on in the scene still remains perfectly clear. Many of the visual elements of the film, like the one I mentioned about the editing, are very clever stylistic choices, which I really enjoyed about the film. Because as a title like Mirage might suggest, this is more of a hallucinatory, dreamlike type of experience. But I think the film still keeps one firm step in the realm of story, to where I think all of its elements bring it to a satisfying conclusion. But on the contrary, however, and this is a bit of trivia for you, this film actually takes place in the type of area where the director of the film grew up, and where these types of things, like armed gangs enslaving the local populace, actually did and do take place, which is kind of fucking disturbing. Honestly, I would recommend this film to anyone because I really enjoyed it. I saw it twice already. I think it kind of exceeds genre. Of course, its influences are clear, but I think it definitely manages to become something of its own. It's something it's slow, but it's short, it's minimalist. It's very devoid of dialogue. There's hardly any dialogue in this film, but when there is, it's kind of hilarious. This movie is also very funny. It works as a dark comedy as well. One of my favorite Romanian actors is in this movie, and he's just hilarious. He's hilarious in general when he has to be, but here he just knocks it out of the park. So yeah, Mirage. Watch it, see it, love it, enjoy it, whatever. Thanks for watching this review, my review of this movie.